I didn't have any drugs in my system. There were no drugs. So he said it sounded like a DMT trip, is what he thought. And I was like, well, I didn't take any DMT. I didn't have any drugs in me. It was like I was fine one minute, and the next minute it was this sensation of course, I've never died before, and I mean, how can you know what death feels like? But I believed I had died. Today's video is brought to you by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. If you've ever been seriously hurt, your injury could be worth millions. Morgan & Morgan doesn't settle for lowball offers. They've achieved some of the largest verdicts in recent months, like $26 million in Florida and $12 million in Philadelphia, far exceeding insurance offers. Their fee is absolutely free unless you win. Morgan & Morgan is committed to fighting for you if you become their client. If you've been in an accident, you're only a few clicks away from potentially changing your life. You can check out www.forthepeople.com/theotherside to submit a claim today. Morgan & Morgan will fight the compensation you deserve if you become their client. And remember, fighting big companies requires a big law firm. Morgan & Morgan is ready to take on insurance companies of any size. You can check out Morgan & Morgan today at www.forthepeople.com/theotherside or click the link in the description below. Don't wait. Take the first step toward protecting your rights. So we were with family. It was around the Christmas time, and I was just minding my own business, sitting around a campfire, and all of a sudden I started feeling really strange. I felt like I was needing to sleep. I don't know, I felt really unusual. So I went to the refrigerator and I got a bottle of water, and I tried to drink it, and it was like I couldn't swallow, and I choked on the water, and the water all just came down my face and on my body, and I thought, that's not good. So I just thought, well, I just need to go lay down. So I went upstairs and I laid down, and my wife came to check on me. She looked at me really funny. She said, "Are you okay?" And all of a sudden I thought, no, I'm not okay. So she hugged me, and then all of a sudden I felt this strange feeling. I've never had it before or since. I felt like my soul or my spirit or something was like escaping out of the top of my head, and it was like I couldn't hold it in, and I was trying really hard, but I couldn't do it. So she said, maybe we should go to the hospital, and I said, yeah, I think that's a good idea. So I go to the car, and my sister sees me coming downstairs, and she says, "Micah, are you okay?" And I looked at her and I said, "I don't think I'm okay, no, we're going to the hospital." And she said, "Sit down." And I sat down, and all of a sudden, it was just like I knew I was dying. I don't know how to explain it other than I just knew that whatever makes me was escaping out of my body, and I couldn't stop it. And a lot of my family around me, and I was just telling them I loved them, and I felt this real sense of sadness because I wanted to tell them how much I loved them. I knew that the seconds were ticking away, and I knew that my time was just about finished. And then all of a sudden, I fell to the ground. As I'm laying on the ground, I'm completely unconscious. I have no idea what's going on. And my sister is smacking me on the face, is what they told me. And eventually I woke up, and she said, "You're gonna be okay, you're gonna be okay." And I tried to sit up. When I sat up, because I've got 3 little boys, and I thought, I cannot die, I have to be here for them. Right when I tried to get up, all of a sudden, this really strange sensation started happening, and my sister was looking at me in the face, and it was almost as if an ice wall was appearing right between us, and this ice wall was just like building and getting thicker, and I could see her through it, but it was getting stronger, and it was almost like it was thickening as time was going forward. And I would try to speak, but it was like she couldn't hear me. So all of a sudden I realized she couldn't hear what I was saying, and after probably about a minute of this wall forming between us, I realized they were in a reality on their side, and I was like gone. I was like in my own space, and I was talking, but nobody could hear me. So at that point, I was totally out. From this forward, I don't know what happened. My family says that I passed out, and they said I was laying on the floor, and they were trying to get me awake, and I was completely non-responsive. And so they had called the paramedics, and they had called the ambulance to come and get me. They say it took about an hour for the paramedics to get there because we were out in the country. As far as I know, I was like non-responsive for probably about 2 or 3 hours. And they took me to the hospital, and they ran all kinds of tests on me. They ran drug tests, alcohol. The doctor thought maybe I had gotten some kind of mega dose of some kind of really powerful drug. is what he thought maybe happened. But I didn't have any drugs in my system. There were no drugs. So he said it sounded like a DMT trip, is what he thought. And I was like, well, I didn't take any DMT. I didn't have any drugs in me. It was like I was fine one minute, and the next minute it was this sensation of course, I've never died before. And I mean, how can you know what death feels like? But I believed I died. Like, I really believed it. And when I came at the hospital, I genuinely believed I had died. And during that time when I was out of my body, because that's what I would describe it, when that ice wall started forming, I was standing in this void, I guess you could say, and this ice wall was in front of me, and I was just standing there kind of alone. I wasn't afraid. I was just there. I was just standing there, and I only stood there for probably maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute or less, and then all of a sudden I started getting sucked into some kind of vortex, some kind of it's really hard to describe. It was like there was a waterfall of information. When you have a fire hydrant, you hear the term drinking from a fire hydrant. It was like there was this fire hydrant of information coming at me at just really rapid speeds, and I could see different people and personalities. It was just all kinds of information. There was light. That happened for not real long. That was probably, I would say, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, something like that, where I was in this nothing bad was happening, nothing good was happening. I was just I don't know, it was like I was traveling through some kind of, I guess vortex is the only word I know to use. And then when I got to the end of that, it was like I was being forced to watch some kind of video. There were some kind of entities. I couldn't see the entities, but I knew they were there, and they were making me watch this video. And I haven't talked about this very much because I have felt like this is like a mind virus. They were trying to get me to believe something that wasn't true, and I don't think that all of these entities that people experience are benevolent. I think some of them could be, but I think the ones that I experienced were not benevolent at all. And they were giving me these ideas and these things that were just really absurd. And maybe I shouldn't say that because some people might believe it, but I'm not being negative about what other people believe. They were telling me that we're all God and that we're all connected to this same intelligence, and they were telling me that every person is the same being, like deity. They were telling me that we were all the same person. Say I agreed or disagreed. I just was basically watching this. So I was standing in this, I don't know if it was a machine or it was some kind of apparatus, and below me was hell, and they were pushing my head down into it, and they told me that if I would agree that I could be Jesus, that they would send me back into the world and I could cleanse the world of all kinds of problems as Jesus. I said, no, I can't be Jesus. Jesus was perfect, and I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I can't be that person. And so there was a clock ticking in the background, and it was about to hit midnight. And when it hit midnight, if I didn't agree, then they were going to push me into hell. And so I stood up as best as I could, because it was like I was being pushed down into this cylinder or some kind of mechanism. And I pointed across the room. I said, I'm not Jesus. I said, Jesus is over there. And when I did that, the lights came on. It was like I was in a dark room up until this point, and then the lights pop on, and Jesus walks across the room, and he says, you can't continue torturing him. You have to stop torturing him because he's not going to make a false confession. And then he turns around, and he starts walking towards this massive weight. It's got all of my deeds on it. It's got the good things that I've done in my life and the bad things. And it's huge. It's big enough to fill a very large room. Huge. I'm talking really big. It was the biggest scale I had ever seen in my life. And it was slightly tilted to the bad side, just a little bit. And I was really sad to see all the bad things that I had done in my life. But I was also a little bit surprised that I had done so much good. I thought, well, it was a moment of bittersweet, wow, I did a lot of good stuff. But I was I really did a lot of bad stuff too. And he went and he took one weight from the bad side and he moved it over to the positive side. And then it was completely balanced, perfectly balanced. And then he turned around, and for the first time, he looked at me. And he looked at me right in the eyes. And he said, you're forgiven. And when he said that, I'm a little embarrassed what my response was. I said, that's it. And he kind of chuckled and laughed, and he said, that's it. And I had just gone through this intense moment. I don't know if I was being tested or if they were trying to get me to make a false confession, or I don't know exactly what was happening, but I just went through this really intense experience. And then all of a sudden it's like the lights are turned on. The first part of what I experienced it was like a false reality. It was something that was being presented to me to test me to see if I would believe these things. And then when I rejected it and I said, no, it's all about what Jesus has done, it was like the curtains went back and he was like, you passed the test. And then he showed me that I was forgiven, and that was overwhelming. That was an overwhelming experience to realize that there is forgiveness for each other. And so right after that happened, he put his arm around me and we started walking together, and he started telling me things, and he actually was laughing with me, and he said, I can't believe that anybody would think that you could be me. And I said, well, I never believed that I could be you. I didn't want to be you. I was just trying to be me. And when you're in this space, you don't talk with your mouth. Like, you're not speaking with words. It's like his ideas were going into my head. So we weren't having communication like normal communication. It was like, I guess, telepathic. He could say more than just like a word or two. It was like whole ideas were coming into my head. And so this is the part that's hard to describe, because I got a lot of, I would call like a download. I got a lot of information very quickly. And there were a lot of things that he said to me. And one of the things that he showed me was that the reason I was being accused, or they were trying to get me to say that I could be Jesus, was because I hadn't relied on him in my life. I had tried to be the Messiah in my life, and I had tried to fix all the problems, and I had tried to not rely on his strength, but I tried to rely on my strength and my abilities to make things work. And so there were a lot of things that he helped me see that were really helpful in helping me understand what had happened to me. And he laughed with me a little bit, and he said, I can't believe that anybody would think that you could be me. And I was like, yeah, that was really strange. And he just said it was a misunderstanding. And he said, I knew that you didn't think that. And then he said, I'm going to send you back into your body. You're going to go back into your life. And he said it's going to be painful when you go back into your body. So it was kind of understood from the very minute that I showed up that I didn't really want to be there. I didn't mind being there. I was there. But like I was saying earlier, there's like a telepathic communication that's happening. Like you speak through how you feel, and everybody just understands how you're feeling. And so it was understood. My intention was to go back. I wanted to be there for my family, and Jesus didn't have to ask me if I wanted to go back. It was like he knew 100%. He didn't ask me. It was like understood. I want to go back. And so we had this understanding as we were walking together. It was like we were kind of getting on the same page in that short time that we walked together. We understood how we both felt, and I understood that he was going to send me back, and he understood immediately that I wanted to go back. Now, did I have a choice to stay? Maybe. I might have had a choice, but that wasn't even on my mind. What was on my mind is I would like to go back and be there for my family. And he was like, okay, I'll honor that, and I will send you back to your body. He said your highs are going to be higher and your lows are going to be higher. And what I understood that to me, as you go back into your body, he was telling me that, I would feel good and then I might feel bad. But those lows would get higher, and eventually I would feel back to normal. And that's true. That's what happened. And when I initially went back into my body, I wasn't fully coherent at that particular moment, but I was looking through my eyes. It's kind of like a computer when it's rebooting. It takes a minute for it to kind of fully get back up to moving properly. And that's kind of how I felt. I wasn't able to fully use my body properly. It was hard for me to use my hands and my feet. And the nurse came in. I was in a hospital, and the nurse came in and she told me that I had to urinate in a cup, or she was going to have to put a catheter in me. And that was like really good motivation, because I didn't want to be catheterized. And I was like, okay, let me try to do this. And it was like very difficult for me to even do basic things like that. So yeah, what he told me was true. It was very strange, because it was like I had a complete detachment from my body. My spirit was completely removed from my body, and I didn't see heaven or hell or anything like that. I felt like I saw whatever the courtroom of heaven is. That's what I think I saw, and that's what I believed I experienced. And as strange as this sounds, I feel like dying is like having a sick stomach. It's like vomiting. Nobody wants to vomit. That's not fun, right? But it's not that bad. It's not like the end of the world if you throw up. I would say that it was kind of like that. Is it fun? No, of course it's not fun. It's not something that I would want to do. But at the same time, it probably relieved a lot of fear. a lot of anxiety about death. I'm not afraid to die. I want to live for my family, and I want to live to do good. I want to do good in the world. I think that was the key takeaway for me, was when I saw all of my good deeds and all of my bad deeds, and then I saw that I was forgiven. When I came back, I want to forgive. I want to live with kindness. Like, I don't want to put any ugliness or any terrible things into the world. Like, I want to, the next time I go back, I want there to be a lot of good deeds on my good side, and I want him to be able to say, you did a good job, and I'm proud of you, and when I die, it's okay. I'm not afraid to die. So I would say that this experience, it strengthened my faith in God and Jesus, and I would say that it helped me to realize that there are lies in this world. There's lies and there's truth. And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between what is truthful and what is not truthful. And I think, that could lead us down a rabbit hole, because, there's different people who judge truth differently. I don't want to be the judge of truth per se, because I'm just a business consultant. What do I know? But my experience helped me to see through what I think are the lies, that we're not necessarily the same person living out the same reality, and in different perspectives, and I rejected that when I felt like they were demons trying to get me to say these things and to say that I could be Jesus. And when I pushed through all of those lies, it was almost as if I was rewarded, and it was like Jesus was like, you passed the test. You did it. Those were lies. That wasn't true. And here's the truth. You're forgiven. I'm going to forgive you. And for probably about 2 or 3 months after the experience, I really struggled, and I was trying to figure out what was true. I was trying to figure out what about my experience was real and what wasn't, because I call it a mind virus. It was a mind virus what they were trying to pump into me at the beginning of this experience, and they were trying to make me think that we're all the same person and all of these things, and I wasn't sure really how to process all of this. And I found a verse in the Bible that says that when we die, we will all be known as we were known. And that had a tremendous impact on my ability to process this, because what that meant is, if we will be known as we were known, then we're not all the same person. We're individuals. You have your own individual interests and personality, and I will be known for as I'm known. I will be an individual who is me. I'm not connected to some ethereal computer up in the sky. Like, we are individuals that were made special. And so that helped me process what it was that happened to me. And so, yeah, I would say it strengthened my faith. I'll put it this way. It feels like my faith became sight. Before, my faith was just something I believed. It was something that I believed in my mind and my heart. Might not have a lot of evidence, but it was just something I believed. And when I was there, it was almost as if that was more real than this reality. And so my sight was like perfect sight. It was like very clear and very strong. And so, like, I don't have any doubt what I believe now. I believe it, and it strengthened my faith deeply. I don't have anything necessarily, that I would say other than I feel like my experience has helped me to see that Jesus is the only way. He's the only hope that we have for forgiveness and for not being tortured by demons for all of eternity, and so I would point people to Jesus. If you don't want to be tortured for the rest of your eternal existence, I would say cry out to Jesus. We all fall in with losing eyes.